I've been seeing a lot of people misunderstand why there are so many food contamination issues happening recently. It may seem like Trump is responsible for this, but I assure you this is an issue that has been in the works of animal agriculture deregulation since at least 1977. And both parties are responsible. Here's why. There's an article that was published originally in the year 2000 by someone named John Locke, called After Deregulation, Constructing Agricultural Policy in the Age of Freedom to Farm. Here's a section called The Deregulation of Agriculture. This is why I'm always critiquing neoliberalism, because this is the deregulation, the privatization, and the corporatization I'm talking about. It says, contrary to current belief, the wisdom of a control-oriented farm program was always far from unanimous among farmers. During the 1938 elections, after the adoption of what would be the core post-war farm program, GOP candidates fanned agrarian resentment against the strict new production controls of the 1938 AAA, defeating New Deal senators in Wisconsin, Kansas, and Ohio, and reclaiming 12 Grain Belt congressional seats. At a meeting of the Corn Belt Liberty League in the 1930s, one man warned that the whole setup of the crop control bill is designed to establish a dictatorship over agriculture. Every day the New Deal bites off a little of the freedom of the American people. Unless this is checked, we will be in the same boat with Russia. Does all of that sound familiar? Such comments reflect a broader critique of the New Deal, as one historian has explained, by those who feared the dead hand of the government and the bureaucratic socialistic spendthrift schemes which were shackling the energies and undermining the confidence of liberty-loving Americans. The criticism persisted well after the New Deal. In the 1940s, one Kansas farmer criticized the Brannan Plan for creating regimented peasants out of the farmer. In the 1960s farm policy debate, the Kennedy supply management legislation was attacked as promoting a policy of the cheap food produced by docile, licensed, and properly managed farmers. The Kennedy administration's insistence on strict mandatory production controls jeopardized the Democrats' recent gains in the Middle West, according to John Mark Hansen, and in political debates over farm policy. The Republicans' most telling issue was coercion. So basically, the Republicans said, "You fucking suck. We want freedom. Freedom to farm." Then the Freedom of Farm Act was put in place. Meanwhile, the USDA and the HHS were colluding with the meat and dairy industries. This was an article written in 2015. It's called The U.S. Meat Industry's Wildly Successful 40-Year Crusade to Keep Its Hold on the American Diet. According to the USDA, the North American Meat Institute, NAMI, estimates that in total, the meat industry contributes to about $894 billion in the U.S. economy. And this was in 2015. That size translates into political influence. In 2014, the industry spent approximately $10.8 million in contributions to political campaigns, and another $6.9 million directly on lobbying the federal government. The article continues to say, alongside the collusion came deregulation, which is traced back to at least 1977, when Congress, a no less conflicted institution when it comes to coziness with the meat industry, had a more prominent role in setting nutrition guidelines. So think of the food pyramid and the plate and all these other fucking models that have been created. The USDA and the HHS created those with the meat and dairy industries, funding them, saying that we need to eat more of their particular product that they are literally deciding is now an integral part of our diet. Here's just a chunk of a paper that I wrote literally 10 years ago in a fake news course during my master's. One cannot help but read the duration and financial investment of the level of hegemonically normalized corruption with the framing these media sources have provided and not conclude, there is nothing we can do about this. Even back at the start, December 1977, of these organizations' power, Senator George McGovern did not want to disrupt the economic situation of the meat industry and engage in a battle with that industry that we could not win. That's what he fucking said. So by the time the 90s rolls around, Congress was trying to overhaul federal agricultural support programs. This was allegedly started as a Republican agenda. However, the amended legislation passed in 1996. The Democrats alleged to wanting other prior regulations to remain in place, reverting to old New Deal era legislation in 2002. People thought Clinton was going to veto the Freedom to Farm bill, and then after voicing his very serious reservations about the legislation and threatening to veto it 3 times, he signed it into law on April 4th, 1996. At the signing ceremony, he said he was committed to submitting legislation and working with the Congress next year to strengthen the farm safety net. And then he didn't fucking do that. And then he fucking embraced it. This is just one example in which the Democrats and the Republicans are both equally responsible for the environmentally devastating hellhole we see today.